Okay, broadcast is on. We are now live on YouTube. Okay, so let me post the link in the chat. All right, so this is episode 48 of Europa Weekly live stream edition, and we have a fuck ton of people with us today. So I'm going to go do the introduction round from left to right. So Blitz is here with us, but apparently he has some technical difficulties, so we'll expect him to come on later. Then we have our good friend Barbute, which will be E tonight. Hello, E.
Hello.
We have our good pal Faust. Hello, sir.
Guten Abend.
We have Horatio with us.
What's up?
Yeah, old meme. We have Johan, our guest from Mexico. So say hello, Johan.
Hello.
And of course, Phineas.
Hello.
Okay, so first things first. Wait, fuck, the live stream is not online, is it?
It is.
Yeah, it is. I see
I
it.
fixed
It
it.
is?
Don't worry.
There's a big live sign in the upper right corner.
Yeah,
It is live, but I can't find it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's my fear as well.
Here, it's on. Go.
Okay, go. Okay, first thing first. We're now Europa Weekly is now officially on Patreon. Sorry, so you can find us there at patreon.net/Europa Weekly, and we'll be very happy to grab your shekels monthly. So the way it's going to function, I think, is that you can pledge us your money, and at the end of episodes, we'll thank our patrons. But if your name on Patreon sounds like a real name, we're not going to thank you. We don't want to dox our donors, so make sure to give a really stupid name on Patreon, or send us a message telling us it's cool to thank us at the end of the episodes.
You just accidentally started a competition to make the stupidest name ever.
Yes, make it very obvious, please. So yeah, we already have a few good ones in our pledgers. I mean, we have one. Rabbi Periodic Table Stein, which is very good. I like it. It's a very good name. So congratulations to you, sir.
Nice.
Okay, so
Calcium.
we'll use that to buy the monthly SoundCloud subscription, buy new equipment if possible, and yeah, that's it pretty much. Okay, so now that's done. This is a live stream episode, so we have sent the link to various venues so you can join us during the episode. Just make sure that you log in with your non-normie Google/YouTube account. Otherwise, you're going to dox yourself live, which nobody wants, of course. And please do not join the call if you have a complete garbage microphone. Yeah, that's it.
Make sure to wear headphones.
Yeah, or even one of those $10 Walmart mics is better than the laptop mic. Okay, so what do we have for today, boys?
Okay.
We can begin with what you want.
Okay, well, I mean, Faust, you wanted to talk about the latest Erkenman conference, right?
Yeah, for sure. So the 14th of October, we had a big conference in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. Again, we deceived the left by telling it was Utrecht. Haha, you fell for it. We had 240 people attend. It was pretty good attendance. It's about double what we had last year. It's pretty damn good. And the more positive development, I personally feel, is that we had a lot of delegations from political parties. So it wasn't just a bunch of people sitting in a basement talking to each other, but also politicians were there, among them from True Finns party, from Golden Dawn, from a Europarliamentary faction called Alliance Européenne des Mouvements Nationaux, which was funded by Front National, but Front National left after the good politicians all left and the women took charge. So yeah, it was pretty good. Made some good political connections, and we hope to improve even more next year. And you can read all about it on Amran and on our website if you read Dutch, and on a number of websites. You can check out the live streams on Red Eyes pretty soon.
Very good. Okay, so Okay, that's nice. I mean, Erkenbrand does a lot of stuff on a very regular basis. I think you guys are one of the most active groups in Europe. I think you guys are always organizing something, which is very nice.
Yep. If you're Dutch and you're listening to this, we organize in every province something like at least every 2 weeks. So yeah, you can join, come along, have a drink, sports, whatever.
All right, very nice. So we were talking about a lot of things before broadcasting, but let's use some of that fire. What do we want to talk about first? Maybe we want to talk with our guest for this week. Johan, you wanted to talk to us about various topics related to the situation in Mexico. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I can give you a short historical overview of Mexico as a son of Europa. And at the finish of this historical overview, I can talk about, well, the situation of the far right here and some happenings here. They are relatively old, but some are of interest if you want.
Sure.
So do you want me to begin with the historical part then?
Sure, let's do that. Let's go.
Well then, I wanted to open with a quote from Dali. It's a very hilarious one because one man, Sabludowski, was interviewing Salvador Dali, and he asked, "Would you go to Mexico sometime?" And he replied, "I would never go to a country more surrealistic than my art." So be prepared for a very strange trip. Well, you can talk about Mexico from one and just one point of view, la chingada. What this word means is Mexico. La chingada means Mexico. Well, it translates to the raped one. And la chingada, or the raped, as I'm going to use it from now on, refers to La Malinche, the first woman that was Indian to learn Spanish. This woman, La Malinche, describes everything about Mexico. You have 3 groups of nationalists. You have the pro-local, the pro-Spaniards, and those who are in the middle. They have been fighting on since the beginning, and in my opinion, they are very wrong, almost all of them, because they perpetuate this concept of a raped culture. Now, to understand this, you have the Spaniards. They come to Mexico. They almost exterminate the locals. It was not intentional. It was because of the diseases. But you have one half of the Spaniards who want to enslave the locals, and the other half that want them to be considered humans. So you have this big conflict between the Catholic Church and the government. They end up considering the Indians people, and they give them their own places. Big mistake, because from these places, the indigenism, the indigenismo, or the localism, it's where it's born. So it begins the division between every Mexican. Instead of having an identity, we begin being a raped culture. In the independence, well, we have vice kings. Like they were like the king here. They would just go on with what the king told them. And we first have the Habsburg, very, very good government, I must say. The Habsburg treated very fair all of Mexico, but then the change was made to the Bourbon house, and they fucked us over. They put excessive taxation, and they created a regular army. Fun fact, New Spain, as it was called then, Mexico, didn't have an army at all. They didn't need to defend themselves. But the Bourbon made one Levi army, and that made the locals very, very angry. Ironically, the Constitution of Cadiz, it was supposed to give representation to America, but instead of that, it created the independence. This rape culture went even further when it was not a local who, well, gave us independence. It was a Spaniard, Iturbide. and it's seen as a betrayer. You see why Dali thought that Mexico was so surrealistic. We betray our own heroes, and we put them on the wrong pedestal. 1 century later, we have Porfirio Diaz. He really understood the value of the European culture. He tried to, get back all that Spanish culture and also the French culture. He was a big fan of the French people, and he tried to, adapt the Mexican culture with the French culture, mix them up and make something beautiful. And he almost got it. But the surrealism hits again, and we have the revolution, and everything good, it's fucked over. With Porfirio Diaz, we have various developments. We were stronger than the dollar. The peso was stronger than the dollar. We also could defeat the United States on a naval battle. We were able to maintain our borders secure, and we were able also to have social order and prosperity. Well, the revolution fucked that over. Everything Porfirio Diaz did was fucked by the revolution. And the surrealism hits once again. And they almost have it on a divine pedestal. So, for example, the main party here is the PRI, the Partido Revolucionario Institucional, the Revolutionary Institutional Party. Now, that's fucked. We have the PRD, who also wants to put the revolution on a pedestal because they said no re-election. That's the only banner they really hold. The only 3 political parties that we have here, it's the PAN, PRI, and PRD. The PRD are the leftists. We call them the tribes because they are not unified. They don't have a single thought. They are literally political tribes that convey in the PRD as a political party and try to push their agenda, but they are so dumb at doing so that they are almost fucking themselves over. From the PRD, the Morena movement begins. Morena, it's another leftist political party, but Morena in Spanish means, brown woman. And that's like the leftist rhetoric to say, hey, you are a brown woman, because the majority of the people in Mexico are brown women. Our political party is named Morena. Vote for us. That's rubbish. That's garbage. We have the PAN, that is our alt-right Catholic
the party's
movement.
literally called Brown Woman.
Yeah, literally, Morena. You can search it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we have some racial slurs, like, for example, güero. Güero means a man with blonde hair.
Ooh.
And negro, you know what it
I wonder
means.
what that means.
But we don't use it on a pejorative sense. If you have some friends from Mexico, you have your friends, and the most dark skin you will call negro, and he won't get offended. He will say, hey, he's el negro. And he will be, yeah, I'm the negro. And you will go with your blonde hair friend and you will call him el güero. And he will say, yeah, I'm el güero. And you will come to them and you can salute them like, hey, güero, ¿cómo estás? Hey, güero, how are you doing? Hey, negro, how are you doing? And it would be no problem at doing so. Mexico is very non-offended by race.
I mean,
we know our stuff and we know our weaknesses, so we don't get easily offended. That's a good thing.
It's been like a thoroughly mixed society for a long time, so I guess you've had to adapt to that kind of scenario of not having, a single group in the majority. So you're saying like Mexico was leading over the United States in several regards.
Yep.
On the alt-right would look at Mexican demographics and think that Mexico just doesn't have any potential to be like a successful country, but it sounds like you wouldn't agree with that.
No. As a matter of fact, we have various natural resources, and our strategic positions are very important. When the Channel of Panama was, what happened in the Channel of Panama, United States wanted to make copycat of their own project in Mexico, and Mexico refused. There was big problems because of the strategic resources that we have here. Now, there is something that bugs my mind. Every geographer in Mexico, every single geographer in Mexico, it's a commie, it's red. And I can understand why, because they know how much resources and how strategic our position is, and how the government is not reacting to any of this, and it's basically laying waste to everything good we could potentially have. And they just become red normies saying, hey, we could have all this potential, we could spread it to all these poor people, because let me tell you, the poor here in Mexico are extremely poor. And the surrealism hits once more, because we have one of the richest persons in the entire planet, Carlos Slim. You can Google that bastard. He is rich as hell. At the same time, you have circles of misery so miserable that they can eat once a week, if at best. I don't know how these people survive, I swear to God. I visited them, I am a missionary, and the most sad truth in Mexico is that when you go to those people that don't have anything, those are the people that serve you. And those are the people that put a chicken in front of you and they say, it's for you. And your heart is broken, because you know that that person have absolutely nothing. He's giving you the only thing he have, and he's giving it to you from the heart. But you go to Carlos Slim and you ask him, for some financial help for some project of yours, and he will send you to go fuck yourself. That is where the surrealism hits again. Mexico has a very good potential, very strategic position, if I do say so myself. We can go on both sides of the sea. I see that as a big advantage, because we can trade with Russia, we can trade with China and Japan, and at the same time we can trade with Europe. And so
Okay.
Hi boys, how you doing?
Hello, sir.
Hey there, it's Martin. I'm the autistic guy that talked about fifth political theory last time.
I
Nice.
remember you. Bye.
Oh, nice to meet you again.
A British
Good to meet you.
autist with a Pepe avatar.
I've got a really autistic story. Like I'm really going to top myself here.
If you cut it up into smaller pieces, it's ill fit.
So I went to the traditional Britain group. Can everyone hear me? There's loads of mics talking at the same time.
Yeah, hold on. Blitz, just mute yourself, dude. Okay.
Okay. So, do you guys know about the traditional Britain group?
Yes, I got one of the speakers to them, the Alliansen guy.
I don't know who they are. Please explain.
I met Bjorn from Alliansen. So the traditional Britain group, they meet every year. It's run by Toffs, but they've had Richard Spencer in previous years, back before he got banned from the UK. They even had Jacob Rees-Mogg a long time ago, though Jacob Rees-Mogg is now disavowed.
What the gig was there.
Yeah, he had to apologize.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I went this year, and it's growing. They're like up to 130. They had Martin Sellner, who gave the last speech, and they had. Do you remember that Anne-Marie Waters? Is it Anne-Marie Waters, the woman? Yep. She who kind of lost the UKIP thing. So, anyways, Anne-Marie Waters, she gets up, she gives this speech about how she's going to set up a new political party in the UK based on an anti-Muslim platform, and so then they which was kind of a funny thing, because she's like it's the traditional Britain group and everyone's like C of E and stuff, and then she comes up and she's like a based lesbian in a civil partnership, and she didn't mention tradition at all. It was just kind of it was just pure kind of like
want Muslims to stop her from munching carpet. That's her entire fucking idea.
She's literally a Trotskyist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what I like to call blood and soy nationalism, but please proceed. Martin?
Oh, do you know what? I'm going to have to call you guys back. Sorry.
Sure, okay.
Bye.
Okay.
all right, I'm open to any questions. As I said, Mexicans don't get easily offended, so make any questions. Truly, don't continue yourself.
How is Frida Kahlo regarded in your country currently?
Well, there's two positions mainly, because Frida Kahlo was a leftist. You have on one side, because she was also the girlfriend of Diego Rivera, also a leftist.
Good friend with Trotsky.
Yeah, absolutely. Trotsky died from 2 or 3 kilometers from where I'm standing, but there's one side that regards Frida Kahlo as a brilliant feminist and as an idol. The truth is that many people do this, but that's normies. If you're cultured in Mexico, if you have one bit of culture and you know something about Mexican history, you regard her as a prostitute, basically. She even had relations with her own sister just to make Diego Rivera mad. Now, if that's not madness, I don't know what it is.
Okay, so in terms of, okay, so Martin's back, so this is going to be a bit confusing, but Martin, do you want to resume telling your story, or?
Did your mom?
Yes, I did. Yes. So she gives her. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
So she gives her speech, and then this this guy is in his 20s, quite well spoken. He says he's basically saying, well, you're attacking the Muslims for wearing hijabs and living a traditional way of life. You're essentially saying
Did she flip out?
you're hating the Muslims for the wrong reasons. So and I was sitting next to Kathy Princess, and we were both saying, "Oh yes, mashallah, brother, mashallah."
How did she respond to that?
From what I've heard, like she's really irritable, and that sort of thing would just make her
Hang on a sec. My follow-up question. So I get up, and this is the first time I've been there. This is the first time I've been to traditional Britain group, so I don't know what the decorum is really. I've been hanging out with the Pol faction, and so I get up and say how do we begin to address the Muslim question without first addressing the Jewish question? And
you want to be careful what
you're
you
on
say
thin
in this
ice
country,
there, buddy.
mate.
Well, this is the thing. So the one of the guys that runs it, he says careful. But I got the vibe that it was kind of more like careful, don't get arrested, than careful, I'm going to chuck you out. And I was a little bit worried that I was going to get chucked out after asking that, but I didn't get chucked out. Then there was a slight pause in the room. Then I got a decent amount of claps. So I reckon probably at least half of the room clapping off the back of that. And then I kept on getting people sort of kind of coming up to me, so sort of saying, I'm totally on board. I read Daily Stormer and stuff.
Good shit.
But she goes, I'm not going to answer that. And then I said, oh, and she said, I don't deal with that sort of anti-Semitism. And I said, it's not anti-Semitism. I'm just questioning disproportionate Jewish power. And and then she just went off on one about, but I was in the Labour Party, and there were Jews that were against this sort of thing. She just dodged it.
Israel is our greatest ally, and we just need to watch out for those bloody Muslims telling me that I can't munch carpet.
Yeah, it was basically we can't have Muslims because they mess with democracy, and we must protect our gays. And then literally the talk before that was about how democracy's bullshit and democracy doesn't work. But then so that was like midway through the day, and then later on Martin Sellner gives his speech, which was really good. Like although it was almost kind of similar, because he was just all about the Muslims and not mentioning anything else, but he's quite charismatic, Martin Sellner. So I got good vibes, and I didn't decide to go full JQ on that one or anything. I messaged I spoke with the British representative of Generation Identity, and said, I'd be quite interested in in getting involved. And he goes, well, I don't really think we can have somebody as outspoken as you and yeah, basically said, yeah. So basically, I've been banned from Generation Identity for going full JQ.
Damn.
Unfortunately.
Congratulations.
Nice
Already.
going.
To be honest with you, I wonder if that's. See, I have sort of two thoughts here. Part of me thinks there should be like a more moderate, like I don't want to say gateway, but like maybe keeping that sort of perhaps more alienating discussion away from things like Generation Identity might be a good strategy. But then we also don't want to completely, leave that off the table, because it is like, there's a lot of important issues come up when you talk about that. So it's kind of like, at some point we will have to be able to talk about that issue, right?
I had
but it's highly
Martin
likely they
Sellner.
thought something along the lines of, okay, this guy is a spurg, zero tact, we cannot let him in. Maybe he can
Pretty much.
by the email.
But I mean, Martin Sellner, he approached me at the pub afterwards, and he said, look, between me and you, like, well, he was like, regarding the Jews, they've got their own personal interests, and some of them we can work with, some of them we can't, but we just don't really want to go that extreme on it. So he was kind of just trying to. I got the feeling like he was basically trying to say, look, I just don't want to go full JQ, and obviously as well, I mean, they've got to be careful, because some of the countries they operate in, they can get prison time for that sort of thing. So I understand, and I quite like Martin Sellner, and Brittany Pettibone was there, and I said, "Oh, hi, Brittany. Where's Lauren Southern?" She said, "Oh, she's hanging out with Black Pigeon Speaks." I said, "Oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, bye."
You went, hi, Brittany. How are you?
She's yeah, but yeah, I just want to tell you my fun adventure at Traditional Britain group. But no, genuinely it was pretty good. And yeah, you should definitely get all the Europa Weekly people meeting up at the next one, and we can try and colonize it.
No, you should meet at the Erkenbrand one.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of listeners, so we have to organize, group travels for Americans to Europe, and just pack every event with a lot of Americans with which we will try to LARP as Europeans.
I would like to add that this is exactly what the Americans would like us to do. Just not cuck. Just go up to the mic, talk about the Jews. That's how we should do it. Don't cuck.
Yeah, problem is we don't have a First Amendment, so our options are very different from theirs.
Come to the UK. We don't have the First Amendment in the UK, but you can be a bit more edgy than than the Germanic countries, I imagine.
Nope.
But okay.
Well, isn't your
you
country
guys have it
basically a
worse.
state right now? So, whatever. I mean, I know in France, if you start to talk about that shit, you get shut down very quickly. So,
I mean, we could then transition to some of the extreme manifestations of late stage clown worldism that are taking place in the UK right now. I mean, I presume everybody is at least vaguely familiar with, the fact that the Notting Hill Carnival, as well as extensive pride parades, were sponsored by the police all throughout the UK recently, costing millions and millions of pounds. But apparently they don't have the money to staff a Remembrance Day parade. Disgusting, despicable, repulsive, disrespectful, fucking infuriating. Makes me kind of think Britain's done, to be honest.
Wasn't there a social media operation where some police officers were wearing women's shoes?
Or fursuits.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, fursuits.
Yes. And nail polish.
Dude, it's like something out of Amsterdam. Like, I've seen...
Hold on.
Hey, Faust, you saw that Harry and Paul sketch I sent you, right? Where it was like,
Yeah.
Here in Holland, we have had no problems with crime when we've just decriminalized crime. We no longer prosecute, so we have no problems.
This is why we can't have a UK podcast for the alt-right, because I mean, basically nothing positive's happening, so it's just too depressing. This is like, yeah.
The glory days of Daily Show over when everything was going to shit.
Well, there's Fast Britannia still.
No, that's gone for months. I know because that's my barometer. Whenever there's an episode of this that's worse than the average Fash Britannia episode, we don't publish it.
I was going to start one myself, but then the other person that was down for starting a UK alt-right podcast kind of skipped out. So,
you just have to sort of surprise people with it. People
The
hate being
Britons
recorded,
needed
but
a
once you get into
fucking Dane, of all things, to purge a fucking furry from their ranks, so
I know.
it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing.
yeah, well, at least we're white, Mr. Finn. Okay.
Oh, what are you gonna do? What about the Normans coming over next?
Oh, yeah, here we go, you fucking Mongolian elf man.
Chatham.
Go
Remember
slink back into
Chatham.
the lake, you weird nymph creature.
That sends a lot of mixed messages. Please redact that statement, please.
I guess nymph is a little bit weird. Alright, but you're Finnish, so you're weird is my main point.
Thank you.
It's true, Finland is the Japan of Europe, basically, which is my position.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Well, you even have
They have
your
good weapons?
anime. How's it called? Moomin? Yeah, it's like Finnish anime. So
Moomin is the best.
Yeah, it's made by a lesbian Finno Swede. Or
Oh.
Britain originally. So
It's still the best.
all right, so should we talk about the topic of the Knights of Malta? I know some people were curious about it, so let's
course.
talk about that.
Okay.
I got approached by like the Knights Templar. I don't know if they're a similar group, but they were like hanging about at the traditional Britain group
Oh
trying
my
to
God.
recruit.
Okay. If you want to touch Malta, I can do it for you. No problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's go.
Here in Mexico, well, I'm a honorary knight, a member to say the least, because, well, here in Mexico, what the Knights of Malta do is to accumulate as much power as they can. They do it with, well, at least right and Catholic ends, but if you are powerful, they'll take you in. There's no problem. Many people, what some Mexicans do to get into the Knights of Malta is they go to Austria. They get some relations with the Knights of Malta, and they get into the order. I have some friends that are in the order and are not even Catholic, just because they are powerful. Now that's a problem because the order can get corrupt like that. I didn't even got as a formal knight. I am a honorary knight because of my grandfather. Well, my grandfather had a political status, very high political status here in Mexico. It's one of the alt-right representatives, to say the least. He died in 2008, yes, from cancer, generalized cancer. Well, that's sad as it is, but the power remained, because here in Mexico, we are kind of a monarchy. If you have the name, you have the power. And as such, they kept me as an honorary knight. What we do is at certain dates, like, for example, the Siege of Malta, we have some events like concerts and social events. The social events have to an end, to know each other, know powerful people, and create bonds. And of course, to push the agendas. There are good agendas generally, I would say. But as I said, not having 100% right ideology or 100% Catholic, because here in Mexico, the Catholics and the alt-right are very intertwined. You cannot have simply an atheistic alt-right here. There is no such thing as federatives here. You are either an alt-right Catholic or a far-left Catholic, and those who are in the middle are the atheists. We have the Teología de la Liberación, which is basically Marxism on the Catholic Church, and in the other side we have the Sinarquismo, who are basically Catholic Nazis. My grandfather was one of the biggest, Catholic Nazis, the founder of the Sinarchist movement, and he participated in the Cristiadas. It's a war, basically a Mexican crusade, because Plutarco Elias Calles, a president, declared war on the Catholics here. As such, there was many problems with the Knights of Malta, with the Jesuits, and of course with the Sinarquistas. The Sinarquistas fucked over the government of Plutarco Elias Calles. It was a great time, but the government later on banned everything to do with the Cristiadas. There's a movie and there is a historical record of it, but if you go to school here in Mexico, they won't teach you anything about the Cristiadas because the government feels like they were beaten down by a bunch of Catholic autistic guys with guns, which it was basically what happened. But the government was very weak from the revolution. It is right after the revolution. Some people say the Cristiadas is just a second phase of the revolution, but they don't teach these things on school, literally. The Knights of Malta here, what they do is, well, they do not only talk about power and high status. They actually do some things. In the recent events of the earthquake here, well, we have 3 earthquakes, 2 very big. They practically destroyed 2 of the main regions here in Mexico. The Knights of Malta played a big role on everything. You can say on getting food, on raising all the rubble, and reconstructing, because many of the houses that were being down by the earthquake, well, they were not too hard to build. So the rebuilding Knights of Malta are doing. It's a good thing, and they are getting some political, improvements here.
Okay, so all of that is very interesting, but I have a question about the order. If I join, do I get a cool sword to kill Saracens with?
Well, they give you a sword, but it's not yours. It's they actually give you a sword just for the how's it called, Misa, Mass. Yeah, well, what I did to join, it was simply to put on the robe, to LARP, basically, to give its staff to the bishop and to say good night and thank you. That's basically it. And they gave me my beautiful sword, the sword I would just only use on those times, and they would take it away from me. It was technically mine, but you can only use it on the ceremonies.
I was a lay member of the Order of Malta for several years, and all I did was basically be a reserve ambulance and stand out in the rain at football matches in case some idiot dislocated his arm. This is completely fucking surreal to me.
Originally,
what the hell?
It was the Knights of St. John, not strictly speaking of Malta, right? But is it now called the Knights of Malta?
Well, they're called the Knights of Malta. Also, in the place I'm working, notary public, it's too much power and too much money for a single city. A notary public, it's basically a notary public can tell you if you can or cannot have a house. And they basically make the contract and they control everything about your house and basically you and your debts with the bank. So the Knights of Malta, they approached the notary and they said, hey, I like your money, I like your power, why not join? Basically everything on the notary is red and with the beautiful 8-pointed cross.
Okay.
This
All
is
right.
amazing. Are you safe? Are you gonna get fucking killed for this?
What?
I don't know. Are you revealing dark secrets?
No, there is too many notary publics here. I didn't set the number.
Yeah, this is weird. I'm sorry, this is completely surreal to me. I'm just imagining the fucking,
Yeah, remember with what I opened. Remember, Dali, this is a fucking surrealistic country, okay? What I'm telling, if it's surrealistic, then it's Mexico.
Yep.
Okay. I had a question because a significant portion of our audience is American.
Okay.
So you're in Mexico, right? So the question is, what do you think of all of the Mexicans who leave your country to live abroad in the United States? What's your general opinion on such people?
Excellent. I was waiting for that one, honestly. Okay. Well, The majority, I condemn. I think they are traitors because many of them leave the country saying there is no job opportunity in Mexico. There is, and there is a lot. The problem in Mexico with the jobs is that there is non-formal jobs. That is the problem. But the job opportunity, it's a big one. Okay, they leave because they think they will win more if they win in dollars. That's just stupid because it's basically uneducated people who, well, following what everyone knows, just know some jobs about, you know, basic stuff on the house, and in the best of cases they can take care of your garden, but they're not very educated nor intellectual people. They go and they do the basic stuff on America, they get basic money, and the basic money gets to Mexico. Now, as a missionary, I've seen a pair of cases, and it struck to me in this case in particular. In Mexico, if you don't have income, you have two options. One, you can go to United States and search for jobs. You'll fail miserably. There is the 1, 2, or 5 Mexicans that do well, and they say, hey, this is the shit. Come to United States and live the American dream. But the majority, they don't do well. Your other option is to join the army. Well, I was a missionary in this place. Everyone had a parent or a friend who was in the United States, except for this one girl. Well, she was kind of old, but you see, when you're in the army, you have, at least here, I don't know how it works in other countries, but you have to, how's the name, the thing that you get in your neck, the necklace, let's just call it necklace. You have 2 necklaces with your ID. One,
Tags.
Yeah, the tax. Yeah, thanks, the tax. When you die, the army keeps 1 tag. The second tag they give to the family. This old lady had 1 tag hanging from the wall. She was the girl that was doing the best on all this place. He had the nicest house. She had the nicest everything. And when we asked, hey, why do you have the tag? Well, it was kind of obvious, to be honest.
Faust, switch your camera off. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry. When we asked her, she said, well, my son went to the army and he went off to fight the narco. He died, but they give us a big amount of money, so we're doing very well. And I think when I die, I'll have enough money to sustain myself and even my grandsons. And I was like, that man is a valiant one. Even if he died, he got the money, right? He got to serve his country, and he was not a traitor. He didn't went off to America, because here's a deal that everyone knows and everyone memes about. There's the typical Mexican that is in the United States and says, Mexico is the shit. Viva Mexico. But when they want to send him back, he's like, oh no, don't send me to that horrible place again. No, please don't. And that's just fucking a traitor. He shouldn't be even allowed to say Viva Mexico. He should be even shut down at the moment to say that. If Viva Mexico, then go back to Mexico, you cunt. It gives me conniptions to say that.
Yeah, it's kind of like our Algerians, you know. They're very quick to leave their country to come here. And once they're here, they keep telling us about how their home country is great, how it's much better than here. But once we tell them, well, you have to go back.
They don't want to leave.
No, it's a dictatorship. It's a terrible country. I have no opportunities there. I want to stay here. I love this country now. It's like, yeah, it's something we've touched upon before, where the immigrants you have from a country usually are selected to be the worst people from that country. Those who have the lowest amount of loyalty.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily very representative of the general population.
It's like the people who went to colonize America, am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, there's a cultural thing. Mexico, the first Mexican empire, had a lot of territory. It's now United States territory. So many Mexicans, what they do and what they use as an argument is, hey, this is Mexico, this is Mexico, this is not United States. You're invading my territory. And they are like extremist, nationalistic, but it's kind of hypocritical, because in the first place, they already took the land, and you are betraying us going to another country. And in second place, there is even a demand in international court telling the United States to give us back the land or to pay for it. We know that we cannot take care of all that territory, and they would probably get independent if we took it back. So what we are demanding is just money and indemnization, and that's all right. But these people don't get that our government is weak as how it is today. We cannot possibly imagine to have all that territory back. It's more than a half of the territory that we had as the first Mexican Empire. It's just crazy.
So if I understand you correctly, in the current far right in Mexico, you don't really put the emphasis on the claim on the lost territories?
No, we had it. Earlier, we had that emphasis. That's why the demand was created. But we are not a bunch of dumb cunts. We do understand some basic geographics and politics, and we do understand that these people in the north of Mexico or south of United States, as how you call it, however you want, they have created their own identity. Some they believe themselves to be Mexican, some believe themselves to be American, some think, like Texas, that they should be independent, and that's all right. And if they have their own identity, we should respect that. But we as Mexico have to work on our own identity and escape from this raped culture, escape from this, I want to be United States, or I want to be an Indigena, or I want to be an Spaniard. No, you are Mexican and you have to identify as a Mexican. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Don't fuck with the United States. Don't go there. Come here, work here, and improve here.
Yeah.
How do you guys look at the Catalonia question, your relationship with Spain?
Well, we are, as historically stated, married to Spain. Spain and us are basically one. Well, when the South colonies got independent, Spanish weren't so, moved by it. They were, of course, the Peru, the Rio de la Plata, or Argentina. It doesn't matter. Venezuela, fuck those guys. Well, they were very, very preoccupied when they knew that Mexico was trying to get independent, because here is the gold. In Argentina there was silver, but here was the gold, and here was the tobacco and the chocolate and everything that made rich the Spaniards to begin with. So when we finished our relationship as a colony, fun fact, we weren't a colony until the Bourbon. When the Habsburg were the kings, we were another kingdom of Spain, like Catalonia or the Reino de Navarra or Castile. Well, when we finished our relationship, we stated like a kind of marriage. So when Spain had a problem, Mexico would help, and vice versa. The problem with Catalonia is that Mexico condemned Catalonia to get independent, and now Spaniards are like, but you got independent from us? How can you help us? And we're like, fuck's sake, we're helping.
Yeah. Okay, so another general question about Mexico is, my general understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the society is racially stratified.
Yeah, absolutely stratified. I am by jus sanguinis a Spaniard, because none of my ancestors have combined their blood with any of the locals. You can count like 5 generations behind me, and every single one of them are either Spaniards, Portuguese, or Scottish. And that's great.
Go back to Spain, to be honest. That's what I do. I'm not going to lie to you, mate.
All right. You have also the indigenists that they think they are pure locals. They do not exist. When the Spaniards came, the 95% of the population was erased. So they combined the few Spaniards and the few locals that were still alive, that combined, and they created mestizos. The great majority of the people here is mestizo, and you can tell because they are brown, basically. You have various racial preconceptions. If someone is brown, he does not detain any power at all. If a policeman sees a brown person in a red line and they pass the red line, they will go after him. But if you see a white person doing the same thing, they will say, oh, fuck it, it's white. He has power. He can fuck me over if I want to correct him. So I'll stay here until a brown person does the same. Now, here is a very, very sad fact that you can check anytime. In Mexico, there is no rule of law because the 98% of all crimes go completely unnoticed. They go to court, but court never does anything about the 98% of the cases. That is just amazingly rubbish. Now, I can literally, and I'm not being hyperbolic with this, I can literally go kill someone in the street right now, and as long as I bribe the persons that I have to bribe at not so high cost, I can go without notice. I can
we
go
can do
rob
that
some.
too. We just have to make up a story about how we were depressed or something.
No, not even that. Like, believe me, the story, you'll go to the judge and it will be, oh, you're white, and you have power, and you have money, and you bribed me already. So, yeah, you can go home. No, you don't have even to make up a story. We have a saying here. Cárcel es solo para los pobres y los pendejos. The jail is only for the fool and the poor. And that's right. That is absolutely right. We have a lot of governors that are escaping from the government because those are corrupt governors who stole. I don't even want to remember the quantities. You can search up for the Duartes. Just Google Duarte and see what comes up. He's a pig. And it's a very common mistake made by Mexicans to think that the government has all the responsibility. We have a paternalist government, to say. And the problem comes from society itself. The government is corrupt because the society is corrupt, because we like to bribe, we like to spit on the law, basically. So when a person that spits on the law on a regular basis comes to power, he's spitting to law by himself. Well, he's spitting on himself and he's corrupting the government, basically. It's very sad.
Yeah. Elsewhere, I mean, I know it's definitely the case in Europe and America. People tend to, in this kind of broad movement, people tend to see things as primarily delineated along race and ethnicity. But you seem to see, say, mestizos and, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you see them as Mexican and having a shared sort of national identity to you, whereas elsewhere people would say white American or indigenous European of whatever country would be the ethnicity they identify with. Would you say that so you see Mexico as being a nation that can be comprised of multiple racial elements?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's why the chingada comes from. Well, being a raped culture, we tend to polarize everything, right? So the true Mexican doesn't have to be Indian and doesn't have to be a Spaniard. For me, to be a Mexican can be anything between those two spectrums, as long as you want to offer something. See, I, as a blood European, I want to go back to Europe someday, but I will never do that if I don't give something back to Mexico. I was born here, I was raised here, and I want to go home. I want to go back to my homeland. I want to go back to Navarra, but I must accomplish first my duty with my country, the country that saw my birth, and I want to give something back. I want to give Mexicans an identity. I want to give them nationality. I want to give them something to be proud of and something to fight for. Because you see, when Trump got to power, I was very, very happy. Not just because I am an alt-right, but because everyone here hates Trump. And I said, finally, something we can all agree in. We can all hate Trump together. We can have an identity. But no, we're so raped on our own culture that we didn't even did that. Again, it gives me conniptions.
So can a black guy be Mexican?
Yeah, there's a pair of black guys. The good thing about black guys here in Mexico is that we only have black guys that have the intellect and the money to come here and to actually work here. So you only have cultured and intellectual blacks. You will never see a black hobo here. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Wait, so there's blacks going voluntarily to Mexico?
Yep. Yeah, there's a pair.
Crazy.
Okay, what do you think of this idea now? I read this a few months ago. Looking at the demographics of the Mexican government and the Mexican upper class,
Mhm,
and looking at the demographics of people being sent over to the US and abroad,
mhm.
is it reasonable to conclude that Mexico is a white supremacist regime attempting to outsource its lower class Indians?
That's hilarious.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I was happy with Porfirio Diaz as a president. He understood that whites rule. He understood that whites are the fathers of civilization. And he said, you know what? Let's bring that civilization. Let's bring those whites. Let's bring all that technology. And let's recognize them as Europeans and convey all that on the Mexican identity. But no, those fucking indigenous have to ruin all and make the revolution. But yes, basically, we are a white supremacist government.
Nice.
Very ironic.
Yeah,
Very
very
trad, very
surrealistic.
alt-right.
Who would have thought that the ethno-state would be in Mexico? I mean, okay, so
Well, it's kind of like, it's the one state I can think of. Well, actually, there's quite a few, but like that sort of state is actually accurately described as white supremacist. Usually that's just a stupid word, but it's literally like a society majoritarily comprised of non-whites ruled over by a small white minority. It's kind of like helotry.
So like
Right, it's-
Rhodesia, Zimbabwe,
Right.
you know,
There's actually
we know how that goes.
Yeah,
there's
doesn't go
actually
well.
one term to define the government here in Mexico. We coined a term, the dicta blanda. You have the dictadura, that is basically you have a dictator, but the dicta blanda in Spanish means soft. So instead of dura, who means hard, it's a dicta blanda. So you have technically an autocratic state, but they use, and this is very, very important for the Mexican state. The Ministry of Truth is very effective here. We have the TV Azteca and another TV major output. I don't know them because I don't see them because they're Ministry of Truth. You never see that if you are a non-normie. But they are very, very, very effective. And when I say very, it's very. They keep the populace so fucking ignorant. You can tell them virtually anything. I've red-pilled taxi drivers just for later see this same taxi driver blue-pilled by another normie or commie, because their opinion is so fluid, it's so liquid that you can make them think whatever you want them to think. So the government can tell them, hey, the sky is red, and they'll say, oh yeah, fuck it, the sky is red because the government says so, because the Ministry of Truth keep them as they want them.
okay,
So basically,
sure, go ahead.
well, basically that's what. That's basically what the SJWs want to install in our system, right? Ministries of Truth.
Well, yeah, you pretty much have that in many countries where you have, state-funded media, like we have over here. So it's not an abstraction in many countries, yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is that the media is kind of leftist somewhere, and in some places, like there was a big happening here, a very big march from the family. All the alt-rights came together to march on the, when we had the second empire here, the Habsburg came back to Mexico, fortunately, with Maximilian von Habsburg, and the Carlota created the Paseo del Emperador, great avenue. In this avenue, we were marching, all the alt-rights, for the family, because the homosexuals wanted to adopt. And there was the controversy on the Constitution if we wanted to implement it or not. So it was preordained. We couldn't change anything, but we made act of presence to say to the government, hey, we don't like what you're doing, so fuck you. All the alt-rights were there. The only rule was to wear a completely white, robes or something like that. And the homosexuals made a countermeasure. They created another march Well, you see in the Paseo del Emperador, in this avenue, in the center is the famous angel of independence, the golden angel that everyone knows about when they talk about Mexico City. In one half, you all had all the Mexican alt-rights, and the another half, you had all the homosexuals. I kid you not. They were like 500 homosexuals, and the alt-rights, we were counted upon tens of thousands. We filled our half of the avenue. You couldn't virtually, walk there. But the homosexuals were the ones who got all the attention from the mainstream media. So they would put 30 homosexuals on a stack, and they would take a strategic angle, so they would appear to be massive homosexuals in the march. It was very, very scummy, but we managed to pull out some good media counter-strikes. The problem now is that, and now this is very surrealistic, what I am about to tell you, if you know. Every media that participated on this march against homosexuals or, in favor of the alt-rights, every single media got sacked. Every single media, including the one that, some very close persons to mine run. That's why I know it. They got sacked. In the night next to the march, people came, destroyed the walls, took out all the equipment. It was a very scummy way to, react from the mainstream media.
Okay, so I think we've covered the topic of Mexico pretty well, I think, unless some of you have questions still.
Yeah, if you have some final questions, shoot it. I will answer whatever you want.
I'd like to hear some more about Mexico, please.
Please stop. Someone build a wall.
I actually want a wall.
Well, thank you very much for your visions from the future.
That's a segue for my question. Will you pay for it? Will you pay for the wall?
I would totally pay for it. So, just so the betrayers don't get out of the country and do something for once. Yeah, I would totally pay for it.
All right, so now that's settled. We have a newcomer here on the Hangout. What? Okay, so say hello, sir, newcomer.
Johnny?
How's the men?
How you doing, Johnny?
What's going on?
Johnny, what are you here to talk about?
Sesh culture.
Oh,
And,
interesting stuff, man.
What for the men.
good
Back
to
in the
hear.
day,
Have a sesh.
when I was at secondary school there, it was a bit of a rabble-rouser,
Mate, it's the fucking Seshlamic state right here.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta get down.
Yeah. Dirty sessions.
Absolutely.
Go around the back of the village,
Can anyone else understand what he's saying?
Nope.
Nope.
Just about.
Okay, Johnny, what about the sesh you want to talk about?
I say we move on to discussing
You give
religion.
the Irishman one chance to prove his worth among the fellow Europeans.
Yeah.
What did he do? He said, "Hey, a fucking sesh. Just come out and talk about fucking sesh. Tell you what."
Yeah, what a catastrophic failure that was. Okay, let's move on.
Typical papism.
Be
Can we
nice.
hear some more about? Can we hear some more about
Mr.
Mexico,
Calvin.
please?
All right, Mr. Calvin, with your fucking usury. Don't get all
Usurious.
all usurious. Yeah. Yeah, listening to some Zurius there, are you, Mr. Usury?
Oh, is that where he got the name from?
I have no idea. This is a cool name, to be honest.
Yeah. We should
Anybody
get him on.
fancy some pointless religious debate? Because I'm in the mood.
Yes.
Oh,
you-
we could double team on the Mr. Calvinist here.
Oh, let's.
Christ. All right, let me just get
We're gonna
300
pull some
Dutchmen
class-
on this call.
Gonna pull some classic Bowden stuff for them pagan memes.
Look, is it a pagan, a Catholic, and a Calvinist, or is this going to be gayer than that?
I think it's two sort of like stuff for them ethical pagans and wait a second,
Yeah.
and a Calvinist. Yeah.
Hey, you Serbian, you should put some headphones in, then you can talk about orthodoxy.
Oh, he left instead.
Which
What a
is
shame.
nice.
But yeah, so paganism's pretty larpy. Yeah, guys. You
Oh,
shouldn't do
yeah.
it.
Well, the thing is,
Depends what you mean.
pagans are only 13% of the alt-right, and they commit 50% of the LARPing. So the pagan question will have to
Oh, yes, I confess to the LARPing. I absolutely confess to the LARPing, and I am not sorry.
What does LARPing? We're not sorry, as Bowden would say.
Yes.
What does LARPing mean? What do you mean by
Live
that?
They,
It means that I have a ritual that is not in the Bible or a part
Like,
of...
literally, yeah. So we follow weird
Whatever.
arcane rituals that aren't Jewish in origin. That makes you.
no, it means you go and sit under an oak tree and take some mushrooms and think it's a
Yeah,
religious
yeah.
experience.
Okay, so
No, yes, we do
So-
not consume the blood and flesh of the King of the Jews. Yes,
yeah,
very
sorry
nice.
about that, mate.
Oh my god.
I mean,
How
if
do
you
I
want to get on to strawman arguing, I can do this all night.
If you walk into the woods and you see a strung out guy with long hair underneath the trees based on the mushrooms, is it a hippie or is it a pagan?
Could be either, TBH.
I
But
have a
it's less
serious
about-
question for
Yeah.
the pagans.
Sure.
Is The Lord of the Rings your holy book?
Kind of, actually, yeah.
And in a way,
In a way,
although the
yeah,
Silmarillion is much more
because-
important.
the Silmarillion is far more important. But the thing about mythology, there's a recent Vogue video on this, actually, that it shouldn't be as prescriptive and as like legalistic. It's actually a very Jewish way of doing things, having it so like prescriptive instead of having it word of mouth through like mythology and this kind of absolute literalistic universalistic perspective that there's this one single deity and this one absolute single metaphysical view and lens that you need to view everything through. Whereas in the prior Indo-European European metaphysical tradition, you had these deities that were like just the manifestations of like what you could see as principles, right? Or what you could see as like as the manifestations of truths in a different sense, rather than like a literal man in the sky who created everything.
Yeah, it's a later sort of...
It's a mythology.
It's a later Christian tradition to go to the country of another people and then demand that they abandon all of their prior metaphysical traditions. I mean, the Romans, when they went to another land, they made sacrifices to the gods of that particular land. It's an Abrahamic tradition to say, like, oh,
And that's why the
your
Romans
gods are
failed.
wrong!
No, the Romans started
Oh
to
my God.
fail when they adopted Christianity, my dude.
No, man.
Oh,
And
no.
That was the
The
saving
Romans-
of Rome.
The
That was the
Romans started
only
to
thing
fail
that kept.
quite a lot before that. Is they lost their faith in their own civilization around 180 AD, thereabouts.
Spengler, my dudes.
Exactly.
Well, the problem is when they became an empire. Actually, when they were a republic, they were all right.
No,
They were an
there's the
imperial
first.
republic.
There's the first run of the empire, and then there's a pretty good run of the empire as an empire that lasts for thereabouts of 250 years, but then it falls into military anarchy, and the empire never really recovers, and the Western Empire, at least. I mean, there's the divide, and the Eastern Empire makes a revival, and goes on for another about 1,000 years.
I mean, I'd say the Byzantine Empire was part of. I'd say it's more of a continuation of just the Greek civilization of that part of the world more than anything.
Well, I could
Oh, yeah,
argue
that is true. The
I
Eastern
don't
Roman
think it was
Empire
strong, really.
carried on in the Greek tradition, not in the Latin tradition.
No, well,
True.
they do carry some Greek tradition. Well, I studied this in the university, as a matter of fact. They give us as a subject all the story about Rome because of reasons. And what they have told us, at least, is that, yeah, they had some Greek things about them, but the main reason to keep on the Byzantine Empire was to keep all those Turks away. Byzantium would have fallen very earlier if not for the Crusades. The Crusades were not originally made for Jerusalem. They were made to push back the Turks.
That's
What are you
almost
talking
six-
about?
oh,
They
that's
were
almost
holy
600
wars.
years
It's for
after
the
the
glory of
split
God.
of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, it was a holy war, indeed. Yes, because the Byzantium went for the Pope. He said, "Hey, they are fucking us over, and they are heretics. They're heathens. Help us. Help get
You're
all the
being a
power."
materialist about this. It's all for the glory of God. There's no material reasoning in this at all.
Shut up, you the
You-
Protestant
Hey,
fucking heretic.
Removing any reference to the material world and focusing purely on the abstract is the single most metaphysically Jewish thing you could possibly
Don't
do.
get me wrong. I do have my own helmet, my own great helm of the Crusades. Yes, I do have one. But hey, we just have to call the materialistic things too.
Catholic Church is basically pagan, and that's why it's good.
Yes. Yes, it is. Whether you
It's
like it or not.
Europeanized
But
form of that bloody foreign religion.
There's some traditions in there, but come on, indulgences and all that shit. I'd like to knock some theses on your door,
the
sir.
entire
No,
structure, the entire
oh,
structure of
Mr. Calvinist man, you like to go on about the bloody indulgences, and the indulgences are, yes, I'm not defending indulgences. It's just that you like to make a case that indulgences are the reason why Calvinism is the absolute and only truth. And I'd like to say that, yes, the Catholic Church was a corrupt and carnal and decadent organization. And
because it was
they
run initially.
Yes,
No,
they
no,
executed
no.
critics of the papacy and the Pope, like Savonarola. They put them on a fucking pyre, or whatever they did to him. It's not entirely clear, actually.
No, hold on. My
Sounds like
argument
you're
is
cooking there,
actually...
Barbude. Are you defending
argument-
cultural Marxists?
No,
My argument
I'm
is-
defending a reformer who said that, yes, you cannot actually buy salvation for your soul.
I'm technically a pagan, and pagans believe that love is fury.
Yes.
Well, there's some.
Hold on. My argument isn't that Calvinism is the ultimate truth. My argument is that Calvinism is the best system for the Dutch, and the Dutch, being the only Germanics that are still Germanic in their character, are of course the superior people.
I think I have a lot of affection for the Church of England. I mean, not in its current manifestation, but I think the Church of England does reflect a lot of things about the character of the English people, and I think in that sense, I agree with you in the way that it's like within the character of the Dutch to practice this specific thing that's kind of an ethnic trait at this point. It's so interlinked with the Dutch to be Calvinist. I get that. I understand.
The Queen in the Church of England, the Queen's actually descended from Thor, according to official genealogies.
Well, kind of complicated.
Well, it's
But
like
descended from Woden, right? Not Thor.
Oh, wouldn't. Yeah, the version of all.
She's also descended from Jesus and Muhammad as well, which is interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Phineas, do you have any straw men to throw into the mix?
Oh, just become Catholic XDDD.
If you're going to be Christian, be Orthodox or Catholic or like High Church Anglican.
Right there.
C of Master Race.
Do yourself a
It's like
favor.
Vikings. Well, in Vikings, when they say, "Oh yeah, your God is greedy." My God, I have greedy gods too, and the Catholic is like, "What? Greedy God? No, my God is not greedy." Oh yeah, and why all the gold for? Oh yeah, these people give the gold so they go to heaven. Oh, and you're telling me that your God is not greedy?
No, churches.
Your
It's
God's
not
not
that the God
a
is greedy. It's just that the organization of the Catholic
Yeah.
Church, the
Yeah, of course.
institution, became
Because it's
decadent and corrupt and carnal. And this
It
is
was
what
basically
happens to every organization with time and entropy. It's just what happens.
Yeah, because everyone
This is
knows
what
that
will happen to your favorite tree as well,
Calvinism,
Barbude.
you have Protestantism.
What do you know about my favorite tree? It's not in my favorite tree is not in Saxony.
It's not a
It's
slut.
a different fucking religion. You fucking moron.
Look,
Wow.
your oak is going to get struck by lightning at some point, dude.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
that
an
will be
oak, you fucking
Thunor.
idiot.
That will be Thunor striking it down, and it will be just when it gets struck with lightning. That is the will of Thunor.
So, do you worship the Hist, my larpy friend?
Pissed. I'm not a fucking Argonian.
Let us we have to now start discussing
Yes, I
which
know.
one is the best tree to worship. Now, personally, I prefer the
I
oak
like pine
because
trees,
the oak is a very Dutch tree, but
The oak is a very English tree. Or the oak or the the willow
ash.
tree. But I have to say, the ash or the yew tree actually is very English. But I have to say, Faust, I think it's really interesting what you said about Calvinism, because the reason that you support Calvinism for the Dutch is also the reason why I sort of have a somewhat pagan point of view. It's because it's about particularism, right? Is he fucking out of the call?
Yes,
I was making too much sense, so he left the call. Well, I'm going to keep going anyway. I'm using him as a prop to make my point. That it's about particularism, and it's about the so throughout the Indo-European tradition, each like local ethnicity had their own sort of pantheon that was particular to them. And as Barbute said, they wouldn't like consider that everyone's pantheon. They just, you know, they had this set of deities that was particular to them, and was like, I mean, often they'd have traditions about how they were descended from these people as like mythical progenitors, all of that sort of thing. And it's like an intrinsic link to the people that our current religion of Christianity doesn't have, because it's fundamentally a foreign religion. And also it's fundamentally everyone's religion. There's nothing particular to our people about Christianity. Its ethic is universal and for everyone.
However, at the same time, before any Christian makes any point, I'd like to make a point as a non-Christian that I will never, ever tell a Pole not to be Catholic.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
I understand that the Poles love their Catholicism and they like it. It's their thing, and it's none of my business to tell them not to be Catholic.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think they'd do better under the Church of England, to be honest.
What are Polish? Do you mean East Germans?
As if everybody was the same religion.
Oh, sick banter.
No, I do think the Poles are their own people, and never mind
Dutch,
your banter. But
are the Dutch just autistic Anglos who can't banter very well? I think so.
Yes.
I think that's basically what the Dutch are. They're just these sort of tall, lanky, autistic Anglos.
We're the missing link between Germanic non-humor and British humor.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. You're just kind of weird and like uncomfortable to talk to. I'm just kidding. I love Dutch people.
Yeah. Still, though, you know, Generalplan Oost has to be executed.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, and you guys have to genocide the Irish. Let's be honest here.
Hang on a minute now.
Oh, good luck with that.
Not now. Real Germanic hours in a minute, dude. Come on.
We're going into the next room to plot our supremacy.
Can I just like challenge the idea that the English are actually in any way Germanic? It's bollocks.
Some of you are.
Not really. Not very much.
No, it's the
There
languages.
isn't really a single English. Yeah, linguistically and somewhat culturally, sure. Yeah. But in terms of ethnicity, like there aren't English people that are any more similar to, say, Dutch or Germans than they are to any other British person.
Yeah, especially Yorkshire and the former Danelaw, which was the longest occupied areas like Northumbria. You can see a very clear link between Frisians and that area. They have very similar phenotypes.
Yeah, there's a lot of rape babies there.
Well, not to the extent that was previously thought, actually. And my main point is that, like, a lot of people in England seem to have this idea that we're more similar to Germans ethnically than we are to the Welsh or the Scots or Irish or something. And in terms of ethnicity, we're way more similar to anybody in the British Isles than we are to anyone outside.
Do you want to be, though?
I'm not saying about one. I'm saying what's the truth.
We're more similar to the Germans than we are to the French, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of
I mean, this lets people understand since the Williamite Wars.
That implies
one word for Britain, and that's the Great Satan. Okay.
That implies
until the Great Satan moved to America after World War II.
Martin, that implies that French people exist.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm going to wait for the.
Hey! Do you know what we should do with Alsace-Lorraine?
Yeah, we should.
Nobody fucking cares.
We should let it be a part of France, and everything is going to be okay. Yeah.
I support this idea.
People don't exist. I don't understand what you mean by that, because like we've got Pusher in the call.
I think it was a clever attempt at banter and putting doubt on them.
Confused me. I said an IQ of 48.
He's literally just a potato battery thing, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's an Irishman's brain is a potato battery.
But it's true that in France we have many subcategories of ethnicity. It's very clear that people are different depending if you are in Brittany or in the southwest, for instance. So that's definitely true.
Yeah.
It's like something.
And
all of this banter reminds me of a thing that Jared Taylor and I talked about while I was here, and he was constantly complaining about the fact that we Europeans keep fighting each other about these kind of
get
things.
used to it, Yank.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Yeah,
It's the way of things.
Hey, we're all white.
Yeah, but well, I don't know about
guys. I've been
There's no excuses.
I've been traveling around the southeast. I've got a bit of a traveling job at the moment, and all the memes about Britain being taken over are the reality is worse than the memes. It's like every single town like that I've been to, like you go past the school and like those videos where you get someone walking along the street and it's all Asian kids. It's like I've literally in the last 2 weeks I've seen about 3 schools like that at 3 o'clock when kids are leaving. It's just everywhere you go. It's insane. Like they must be lying about the statistics. Well, I mean, I need to go up north just to see what it's like up north. But yeah, in the southeast, it's fucked. It's really, really bad.
When you say Asian, you mean Pakis or?
It's Indian, Pakistan, and black as well. Like those are the main races. You're not really seeing many Chinese.
Can
or
we
anything like that.
retire the use of the term Asian to refer to Pakistani or Indian? Because it's just confusing.
Yeah.
Pakistanis, or the other word that I'm not supposed to say, and I won't
The
say.
Southeast Asian mode of rights here lately. So in a few years,
Indians, they kind of.
We have to call them our imperial brothers in arms, as Daniel Hannan would like us to call them, right? We have a connection of heritage with India.
Isn't that the same name you'd use for the Irish?
I guess.
Hang on a minute now.
I've got more paternal feelings towards the Irish.
Now everyone is a potato.
Yeah,
Who doesn't
paternal.
like potatoes, to be honest? They go fucking great with everything,
Right, your boy's got a lecture at 9 tomorrow, so I might leave early if that's all the same with you lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
shove
I'll
off.
see you around.
Yeah.
All right, it's good to be on the
See
call.
ya.
See you guys.
Good luck.
All right. Well, the religious debate was not as productive as I expected it to be.
We need
No,
to
I
have a
think we kind
religious debate.
Never.
No, no.
A
What
pagan,
did you expect to come out of it?
one
Seriously.
Yeah.
pagan and one Christian, absolutely no reasonable arguments allowed. Just
I
shit.
expected
That's what
more
we need.
anger. I expected someone to leave the call in fury. I expected better content.
Well, maybe if we do it at a live recording, like we can have a punch up, and then
Yeah.
Isn't this a live recording? Not
This is
one
live.
Christian has ever been able to actually make me angry about a religious debate. So
I'll
I
just
just pretend to be
no.
angry.
What I mean by live recording is that we all gather in one room, and then I cut down an oak tree.
It's just a meme.
then you cut down an
all
oak
right.
tree, and you know what follows? I'll throw down maybe 10, 15
How do you fit an
acorns
oak
and say
tree in a
that
room?
I'll meet you in 100 years.
Real talk.
Yeah, I know
talk.
you won't.
If you were around at the time of Jesus, would you spend time with him and try and learn his ways?
No, he's a fucking hippie.
No. Let's see. What am I? Because do you expect me to transfer to an Israelite, an Aramaic, a Roman? What am I?
Well,
You have
you're
to
a
specify that.
A very lost Mongol.
For the sake of argument, let's say you're an Israelite. Jesus was about. Would you at least even be intrigued enough to go and see him?
Okay, I'd probably
Yeah.
go see him, but then I guess the.
We are
the
fundamentally
Pharisees would
everyone
probably have
in the
more social
racist.
control at that
Shut up,
time.
Harvey.
So
Are you both talking? I didn't hear. Sorry.
No. Everyone fundamentally in the alt-right internet thing is a Socratic or Christ-like figure, in that they just sort of spurg out online all day, pointing at things they don't like. So I can definitely see Jesus taking off in these circles.
Jesus was
He
Jesus
made
was
great
spurging out against the Pharisees. That was I mean, it's that, that's the whole flipping over tables. He was just like he was basically reeing over money lending and started flipping tables in the temple.
Merchants, get out
I
of
can
my
see us
temple.
doing that.
Yep, definitely.
Jesus, be careful with the optics. You have to.
Yeah, well, that did get him killed in the end. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the equivalent of
according
getting
to
banned from Twitter.
Updated question for Barbute. Replace Jesus with Tengri. Would you become a follower of Tengri if you had to see him in real life?
of course. I mean, the thunder made manifest in human form. Of course.
Nice. Okay, do we
On
have
a more serious discussion of religion,
sure?
what do you guys think of like the ideas that Survive the Jive promotes on his channel?
I've never watched his content, to be honest.
I don't watch much of it. Sorry. I'm not going to comment on his ideas because I'm going to get something wrong, and then I'm going to have 50 Spurgs saying, actually, he's a.
Actually, well,
Actually.
well, I think I'm the only one present who's actually made an effort to watch his content, and I do like it.
Could you summarize it quickly, please?
Summarize it quickly. Well, it's
Erase the
ranges
paganism.
the paganism, which is his content tackles a wide variety of paganism from pagan beliefs, from Greek paganism to Roman paganism to Indo-European pagan beliefs. You see, you Christians have to understand that paganism, quote unquote,
Oh my God,
is
we know.
not one
Oh my God,
religion.
We know. Stop.
No, I'm not going to stop you, Irish cunt.
Skip ahead.
No,
You
I'm not going to
pagans have
skip
to
ahead because
understand
you
that as
asked me to
Christians are
summarize.
diverse.
You asked me to summarize a topic that would cover an entire fucking series of lectures. So
Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
I'm going to spend some time trying to condense the point that I cannot summarize.
All right, I got a question for all you pagans. Okay. All right. Let's say that this is the end of time, or and Jesus, and the second coming of Jesus is right around the corner. And
no, you mean the third coming of Jesus? I mean, he already came back to Earth once.
Okay. Yeah.
All
right. But let's say Jesus comes along. Would you be interested, or will you stick to the paganism?
Okay. This is sort of question that the Wotan rides down from the sky with 100 Valkyries, and he asks you, will you join him?
Barbute.
I'll ask you this question: will you join him?
Well done, time. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That would probably be Jesus. Maybe they're the same person.
Well, maybe this sort of question is fucking pointless.
Well,
Allegedly.
it's basically asking if my religion is true. Would you be willing to accept that it's true?
Yes. So in short, shut the fuck up.
Look, when are you going to convert, and how much bantering is it going to take?
Well, I don't think you have that banter in you.
All right. Here's a good hypothetical question.
He's too far gone. He does drugs in the forest with his friends.
No, not with my friends.
Has to be a real life.
Wait a
Very
minute.
alone, you fucker.
Exactly.
Would you convert to Islam to save the white race?
Not gonna lie, boys. If I was some Sandman out in the middle of fucking, I don't know what, I'd probably convert to Islam, just fucking ride around on a camel all day, get a bunch of war rides together, you know what I mean?
Good fucking plan.
Be brown Sharia, but fuck it, it'd be
What Sharia
a
now?
great plan, but
Actually, this brings me to a point that I've been wanting to write something about, but I can't quite figure it out. There's this tradition of admiration for Islam in extreme right-wing circles. Like you've got the Gobi admires it, Carlyle admires it, Nietzsche, Hitler himself, all of these guys, and it's coming back today. White Sharia is just a manifestation of an intellectual tradition in extreme white circles.
Well, it's
it's not really so much an admiration for like Wahhabism and the fucking craziness that's happened. It's more of a admiration, I imagine, for more traditional or the Shiite or the Sufi tradition, I imagine.
It's not more traditional though. It's about it's an extended sesh though. They want war brides and they want a fight and they want to raid towns and ride on camels.
And they want strong
That's
identity,
traditional.
which is
That's
not
not
something
weird.
that's being
Yeah,
offered.
I don't think the explanation is that material. I think there's some sort of. My theory is that Islam is like the most brutish expression of traditional values. It's like the logical conclusion of, if you take it all the way to the most extreme brutish way and you put no nuance or logic to it. And it's like, yeah, you have to keep your woman down. That's traditional values. So what does a Muslim do? He puts them in a burqa, he beats them, and he gives them no right. What does a European do? Well, he gives them some rights, controls them, keep them in society, that sort of thing,
You could summarize Hitler's view on Islam like that, but you couldn't summarize Evelyn's view on Islam like that. And so many of them do see something different.
Islam.
Carlyle just admired their harshness in many ways.
No, Carlyle was a historian who was able to view them as a historical phenomenon.
And he saw Muhammad as a manifestation of the heroic person. So, yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, which I don't think is in any way, shape or form wrong.
I mean, I think the admiration in far-right circles for Islam mostly stems from the Nietzschean commentary on Islam and his sets of values, where Islam is the most transcendent and the most noble religion in the Nietzschean sense. And so if you're looking for a martial value and a religion made for masters and not for slaves, if you reason in his categories, then it's quite logical to have an admiration.
That's partially true, but I mean, for most Muslims, you are just subservient. You are a second-class citizen with no wife, no position, no chances.
Yeah.
So.
No, I never said they were right, but they see the Ur Islam and they say, well, it's much better than Christianity because Christianity is a religion of slaves, etc., and the genealogy of morals.
Yeah, it's weak.
So it's kind of.
But let's say as Hitler suggested, that you mix the white man, the good qualities of the white man with what the white man is currently lacking, which is a strong identity, and you give them the white man a strong identity from Islam. And then you don't pollute it with other races, whether they're Muslim or not.
Yeah, but
what would that product look like?
That doesn't really work because the language of Islam is Arabic, because it's the language in which the revelation to Muhammad was done. So if you're Muslim, you have to speak Arabic at some point.
Yeah, not only that, but once you adopt that sort of polygynous marriage pattern, what's going to happen is you're going to have to become, violent Hindus to ever have a chance of getting a wife, and then there's just, no point. You've lost before you started.
Yeah, but
no,
take it like in a concept, right?
You just combine that with ethnofuturism. You have to go conquer green space babes because the ones on Earth have run out. So that's your motivation to go colonize the stars.
Wow,
yeah, but
powerful.
You don't have to do exactly what Islam did. You don't have to be Islam. You just have to do exactly what Islam did right and apply to the white world. I would see it like that.
Yeah, but it's kind of the problem with such a vision where you could mix white race plus Islamic doctrine. It's completely does away with anthropology and the reality of what the religion is, because the reason why Islam works so well in the Arabic culture is because it enhances the qualities of the Arabs and it keeps their flaws in check for them, and so it's an anthropological asset for them, but it's not for us. I mean, I don't think.
What about the Persians though? Because I mean, the Persians are quite similar to whites in many respects. They're not barbaric, and also the Arabs in the time of Muhammad were you had your shit tier Bedouins and stuff, and then you had the Hashemites and Muhammad's tribe, which people have argued were somewhat Aryan and such.
Oh yeah, Islam is actually originally white, so we should all become Muslim.
No,
Yeah,
no,
no,
no.
we're going there, right?
But when it comes to the Persian,
We kind of need to like set up our own fucking religion, like play the long game. You know what I mean? Just like send some fucker up into the
Yeah, William Pierce tried that and it didn't really work.
you can't
just
just
take
create a
them
religion
down.
like a video game. It's not exactly.
Well, you can if you try your best. Like look at
What,
Yeah,
what
fucking
about
this-
Ron
Islam?
Hubbard. He fucking
Islam
wrote a
plus
book.
Church of England.
No, what we need is to do it like a video
Mosque of
game.
England.
No, do it like a video game. You have to have like level ups and you have to have like specializations and tiers. Like, oh, I'm a monk and I'm a level 1 monk, and then you do
It's
like a
called-
lot of praying.
It's
called Scientology.
Yeah, Freemasonry as well. You have
Yeah,
33
super
levels.
special master sergeant monk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I just fucking I never played.
I'm sorry, I don't speak potato.
I don't speak. What are you fucking saying, you Dutch bastard? Tallest mountain in fucking Holland's a fucking speed bump. You gay bastard. Go fucking rape a dog or whatever you fucking queer Dutch people do. You fucking.
I still don't understand
you know what,
anything.
yeah.
I'm sorry,
just
Mr.
understood
Tottenkopf,
six
John, but your speech is very hard to understand.
Yep. It's
Take the potato out your mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Phineas, will you come help your fellow countrymen?
I'm sorry, John, your microphone's too bad. No one understands.
Like the typical Irishmen, they are divided and fighting each other.
Over the scraps of the potato peels.
The people and themselves. Look at the fucking Civil War. We got all we wanted. We're like, no, it's sad enough. Next thing you know, we're killing each other for a few years. Still going on.
Okay, I suggest
Magical.
I suggest we play a game like we pick out the words we do understand and then we speculate on the sentence.
He's talking about Marvel Civil War. I didn't think it was a very good film.
Had killed each other for a little bit, but after that it turned into mush.
No, it's like, here, give me a second. Give me a second.
All right. Ah,
Do we have an actual topic to talk about?
Actually, I would like to give a shout out to.
on the internet.
Hold on. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Bond for being in the chat shit posting, and I'd
So
also
was
like
I.
to.
And Serbian man, whatever his name is.
God bless Mr. Bond.
And I'd also like to give out a shout out to Zonwending. He won the Third Rail Panels White Baby contest video. He's a good guy.
Oh shit! Got a good YouTube channel. Nice guy.
Yeah, he's got a big YouTube channel, in fact.
I've got a bit of a question. So, do you think that the UK generation identity is going to go anywhere, or do you think it's going to be a waste of time?
I think it's uniquely unsuited to the UK, that fucking black and gold brand. I would also say the Irish version is run by fucking weirdos, and the official name of the Irish version is Generation Identity Era / Ireland and the North. And it's integrated financially with the UK one, so Ireland definitely going to shit. Whereas in the UK, I don't.
What would you propose as the correct mode of activism in the UK?
it's not. I mean, in my opinion, it's not
to get
about
results.
it's not about the mode of activism. It's more that when you're judging an organization that is so little, it ultimately comes down to the quality of the human material you're working with. So if the guy are reliable, you could do something. If they're trash, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. If you live in Ireland, join the National Party. Here's something I've been saying for a while. The National Party in Ireland, okay, is run by Justin Barrett. Okay, the leader of the anti-Treaty of Lisbon, anti-EU Constitution, and anti-Nice campaigns here, right? This man has single-handedly done more to stop the advance of Zog than literally every other fucking person alive in the world today, okay? Like
in Ireland, sure.
Yeah, well, no, in stopping those treaties, those were pan-EU treaties, which
they
means
were still passed.
Okay, they were passed after several years of delay, you know, but
Yeah.
he still delayed the EU's development for several years. And I mean, this is my point. People saying, just wait for Hitler, bro. Well, look, you have Hitler now if you live in Ireland, so please join the National Party.
Does he have the mustache?
No,
Is that the kind of advertising he wants?
Why just fucking join it?
He's been the Irish National Party was mentioned on Amran, so I guess it's shot anyway.
Is it on Amran? Okay.
Be the change you want to be in the world. That's what my mum used to always say. It's kind of applicable now. We want a white Europe, so we should just, be white, eat healthy, go healthy, go gym, eat family, fucking, I don't know, maybe fucking go full Bosnian on something. Would be nice. But sort of, it's like, if you're gonna run brown people out of your country, do it properly. Like, just fucking beat them with Hurleys. It looks good.
It looks.
If you're in, I know. Yeah, it's good. But you can't have.
Please don't advocate for violence on the live stream, John.
Oh no, I'm not. Oh no, don't be violent. Hypothetically speaking, now.
Hypothetically, beat them with Hurleys. Thank you, John.
It's all a prank. It's all a prank.
I certainly don't. It looks good sometimes, but not other times, Like Rwanda, that was a fucking mess.
Oh, I've got a very good. I've got an interesting topic actually. So when I was at Traditional Britain Group, there was a very clear divide between the upper classes and the middle classes, and there was basically nobody from the EDL style lower classes. So this got me thinking that there needs to be essentially three separate but connected groups, catering for each kind of class. I don't know if this is an English thing because maybe the classes aren't as pronounced in other countries, but how do you see social class and political activism in this working?
If we use the example of the United States, there's already sort of a lower class movement there with Daily Stormer, TRS, and all these guys. That's kind of a lower class movement on the whole. And the more upper class, middle class guys who are attracted to movement, they go to like Amran and this sort of thing. The proper upper class, they work behind the screens if they do anything at all, like the guys financing MPI and the guys financing Bannon and so on. So it kind of already exists there. Now, a lot of guys in our group keep pestering me about starting a labor union, so that might be an idea, although I'm not sure if the logistics of that are even possible at this stage. But they've tried it in America with the Traditional Workers' Party. So,
well, the thing is, you might run into something weird if you start to do a division of political labor based on social class, which is that very quickly your groups are going to advocate for their own interests. Yeah. So replicate their own social class into the way they do activism. So, I mean, if you look at the skinhead movement and some of the people who are still doing that today, most of them are, white proles, and what they do is complete shit. It's terrible. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't produce anything of value. So you want to have some sort of balance.
I think.
Yeah, sure.
The correct ordering of society, you have to have the three social classes working in unison, because none of them can function on their own. They all have to work together, and they've all got their own place. And essentially, what's happened is, part of the destruction of the West has been the destroying of the relations between the social classes. And essentially, what mass immigration is a replacement of the lower social class. And at the same time, the traditional British social class has been replaced by Jews and, cosmopolitans and such. So it's like, but I don't know what I'm getting at, but those are my points.
At the same time, definitely don't let the lower classes lead, because you see what happened in the United States. They'll just fight each other.
Sure, those are all middle.
I think we should try.
Okay, so someone was making a point.
Okay, I think Jonathan Bowden had the right idea in general, though. Just go around to pubs and give lectures of a very, highbrow type. Sort of bully people into not acting like complete idiots, basically.
Yeah.
Idiots are disproportionately working class.
I go in between from the upper class groups like Erkenbrand, and I also talk to like the more lower class activist groups and the workers groups and so on, and some of the more hardline guys, and honestly, giving those guys a lecture, inviting them to a lecture is completely pointless. You're better off just like setting up a metalhead hardline Natsock concert, and that'll attract them.
Well, in the UK, it's more kind of football fans that I imagine are going to be the actual lower classes that would attract, like the Football Lads Alliance. That seems quite interesting.
Isn't that the EDL's target group?
It's not. No, they're trying very hard to distance themselves from that. I mean, they're technically not racist. They're just worried about Islamic extremism.
Yeah, they go about on their little demonstrations waving about the flag, the Union Jack and the Israeli flag. Isn't that right?
Yes, true.
I can't.
That's the EDL, yeah.
Oy vey, Goins. I have to go.
All right.
No,
Goodbye.
it's late hours in Mexico.
Thank you for telling us about the life we will all live in 10 years.
Before you go, could you tell us some more about Mexico, please?
Oh, what
Shut up.
do you want to know? Why do you?
Just talk for about half an hour more on Mexico, please.
No. I have a question.
You see that photo of those people?
No, wait. I do have a genuine.
Their pants are
I do have a genuine question.
What's the history of Mexico?
Shut up.
Shut up.
I do have a genuine question. Do you think the violence of the cartels is due to like an inherent blood cult state of mind that's inherent to the Mexican people?
Kinda, yes. Well,
I think it's like the minds.
as I said, 98% of the crimes go unpunished. So when you have a cartel, basically, only you are creating a mini state under the Mexican state. So cartel is just mini Mexico under the real Mexico.
I mean more in a cultural sense. It's like, is the bloodlust something inherent to your people?
So
yeah, I must say it is. Like the worshipping for the revolution, it's bloodshed, and they worship it. Like for a simple example, the Day of the Dead, we all worship the Day of the Dead more than our gods. It doesn't matter if you are a Catholic or the Day of the Dead is the shit here. And it's basically worshipping death. I guess that gets it answered.
So when are the ziggurats coming back and the Torying out of the hearts, do you think?
What?
You know, the pyramids, the heart sacrifices.
Oh, I can go on with that for literally weeks. You don't want me to get into that topic. Just Google Guerras Floridas or Google the flower.
Please do tell us.
No, they are not coming back. Not even
maybe later about the Mexican heart sacrifices by the Aztecs.
Barbear's having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's pretty funny because his accent's even worse.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it is. It's true.
Barbear speaks like a Brit. It's really funny.
Well, it's not a Brit. It's an indistinct English-influenced accent that's not really from anywhere, which is worse.
All right. Sometimes I speak like a Russian, or so they say. Sometimes I speak like a Scottish, or so they say. Sometimes I speak like a fucking bando puto. I speak like the bando is saying.
All right, it's been good.
Yeah, I have exam. I would hang out more, but yeah.
Sure, it was nice having you. It was very nice.
Oh, thank you for the
Please come back.
Oh,
Please come back.
Good speech, man. Sorry about the bounce.
I will come back anytime when you like it. Okay.
Every live stream, we need an hour update on Mexico.
If you want, so yeah, we can do the segment Sons of Europa. Well, nice.
Do you listen to Beyond the Wall?
What?
Beyond the Wall. It's the South American podcast.
Yeah. South America. I'm not that into South America. I have one Colombian girlfriend, and I could get some info if you want, but
You're not like all the other girls. Okay.
Venezuelan girls don't wipe their ass.
All right. Let's move on.
That's because they have no toilet paper, XD.
You got it right, mate.
Classic.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. It's like, you know who are the wealthiest people in Venezuela right now? Prostitutes, because they get paid in dollars.
Just as in Cuba.
You ever
Yep.
Africa, or it's like woman beats man with glass bottle after he pays for sex with bull.
Well, thank you and goodbye.
Good
Goodbye.
night, Mexican.
Bye, mate.
Good luck with the heart sacrifices.
Oh,
Yep.
All right.
Basically feudal states is what he told us.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Magical.
So that's those guys who are always LARPing about starting an alt-right ethno-state somewhere on an island. What we should do is just form an army. What we need to do is invade Mexico and take a province and like just pretend we're a cartel.
Or you could
No, but,
a James Bond villain or something.
no, but why can't we just buy an island off the coast of Chile and send a letter to the government to say that, oh, we're a new nationalist socialist movement from the United States. We want to buy an island.
Make sure there's a swastika on your flag as well. That would really work.
To be fair,
As well, yeah.
to be fair, this was an actual plan on the alt-right server.
We know.
That's why we're talking about it, yes. Yes, it was resounding success, I'm sure.
This was by the same guy who blackmailed that 14-year-old guy into trying to sing a song on the server.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh.
Spencer
but at
picks the
least
best people. The
At
best
least you're
people.
doing something for the cause, man. You're not doing anything. You're just funding your balls, man. That's real life activism right here.
Yeah. Shall we do some
Real life
criticizing?
action going out in the
Shall we criticize Spencer some more over his latest tweet debacles?
Yes.
So, do you want me to go on in a half-hour triad about how I dislike him talking about how handsome he is? Or
No.
do we actually want to talk about the content of his tweets?
You're allowed to have
Half-hour triad, please.
Wait. You're allowed to have your rant, Barbutte, but it's not going to be longer than 5 minutes at a time, okay?
Okay,
that-
that is perfectly acceptable. But just for the record, I would like to say that I personally, on a moral and personal level, object to someone talking about how handsome he is in such varied contexts, time after time. It's like, oh, I'm so handsome, they rejected me. Oh, I'm so handsome, they can't handle me. Fuck off! No, you're not. You're just an average-looking sort of Anglo guy who appears to be sort of maybe a little bit below average weight for an American, and you think you're somehow special. Fuck this.
No, he is better looking. For a man of his age, he's better than average.
He's not
He
best
brought
looking.
us the haircut. He brought us the haircut.
No, that's from the fucking 30s, man.
Yeah.
I don't have that haircut. I have a fucking mop. I don't care about the haircut.
Well,
Well,
so Sam Hyde brought you your haircut. Then.
No, Sam
you
Hyde
guys-
didn't bring me the haircut. Fucking Jimmy Page brought me the haircut.
Oh, Jesus. Do you know, you guys saw that some show did some kind of thing about Charlottesville, like a sort of, it was sort of referencing Charlottesville, but sort of not. And then Spencer complained on Twitter that the actor they cast wasn't handsome enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to attack, to be honest. I mean, how do you even respond to having a TV show made about you?
I'd sue them.
Oh, speaking of which, guys, a TV show was made about us. Blitz was watching it. It's called Berlin Station. Season 2, episode
I've heard
1 is
about
about us.
fucking.
Yeah, apparently it's some sort of spy TV show, and in the second season, they have introduced a black female character, and the actress is named, and I shit you not, she's named Keke, as in Keke, which is fun in itself. And the storyline is about how the far right is attempting to overthrow the German government, and the head of the far right is a charismatic woman for a party which is called what? A New Chance for Germany or something?
No, Perspective for Deutschland.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Very subtle. Very subtle. I couldn't
Yes.
have caught it.
And their logo is a big arrow. I wonder, what did they mean by this? It's like it's basic propaganda. Yeah. But well, it's like that terrible movie with the Harry Potter. Imperium. Harry Potter and the Order of the White Race. That was a good one.
I'm only seeing that one meme. It's like from that one fucking Harry Potter and the Gas Chamber of Secrets fucking thing, and it's like he's walking there and he's like deep cover and sees him and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And he has to like act like he doesn't know him, so he just turns to his like black friend. He's like, "Fuck off, nigger." Funny. Daniel Radcliffe.
Have you seen? There's a right.
If you ask me,
Ryan Gosling's first film. It's on Amazon Prime. It's about Ryan Gosling being Jewish and a self-hating Jew that becomes a neo-Nazi.
That's a true story, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, there was some American.
It was quite fascinating. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I'd just like to point out that what we're doing now is like what the skeptics
called like
do.
The Believer or some shit like that, and it's like it's got some pretty fucking solid red pills in there.
Big time, yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to just point out that what we're doing right now is like what the skeptics do, is like completely pointless discussions for hours and hours.
No,
Oh,
this is
that's
meeting
true.
the fans. This is meeting the fans.
No, but it's to an extent it's completely pointless. However, in the case of Richard Spencer, because he presents himself as the face of this political and not just political, but also the head of the meta-political ideology that is quote unquote the alternative right.
Yeah, I mean,
and he talks about himself as he cannot let go of his ego. And
yes, and I swear to God that that's the reason that he keeps attacking people like Bannon. It's like, oh no, shit, Bannon might become more popular by attacking the GOP than me. Quick, let me disavow him on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is entirely driven by his search for fame and ego and validation, which will eventually be his downfall, that's for sure. He's going to use, at some point, he's pretty much going either to become so obsessed with himself that he's going to form a fringe around him, which is going to become irrelevant, or is going to sell out to someone who can, give him his 30 pieces of silver. So he's completely unreliable. So yeah.
Is he gay? Because you never see him with a girl.
I don't buy the whole Spencer is gay
No.
narrative.
He does have a wife and kids.
I thought he got divorced or something.
He could be a
but
gay, just like
he's divorced.
Whatever else he is.
He's divorced, but he did manage to get her pregnant another time after the divorce. So
and there are rumors
wow.
how he's unfaithful to his wife as well. There are rumors about that. So
okay, let's not spread stupid shit now. I mean, come on.
I said it's a rumor. It's
rumor. Oh, for fuck's. Allegedly, Richard Spencer.
But I think
I'd just like to say that allegedly Richard Spencer is a child rapist. Allegedly.
No, but seriously, I think the whole Spencer is gay narrative is not the way to attack him. I think it's very weak.
No. It's not attacking him. I think it's fair to criticize the guy.
I don't think he's all bad. I mean, I think the overall the university tour is probably a net positive.
No, it's debatable.
Yeah, maybe.
I will. There was supposed to be a debate between Pusher, Faust, and Spencer and Giorgiani.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will substitute for Giorgiani. I am at least equally as crazy.
No, I think you're too Catholic. I think you'd have to substitute me for Giorgiani.
Okay, yes, you can talk.
But the debate wasn't going to be. The debate was going to be about pan-Europeanism back when Spencer was nagging on about that a lot. I mean, he still does, but it was pretty bad back then.
He has the pathological urge to counter-signal everything. I've noticed.
Yes.
Well, yeah, he wants to be in charge of his own niche. So if someone is a competitor, he's going to attack them, but he's never going to accept being challenged from the right. It's one of the things with him.
Yeah, so he is vampires.
So what about Mike Enoch? What are your thoughts on Mike Enoch?
He's a cool
think
guy.
he used to be better, but he's good still.
Yeah. Before the doc thing,
used
it
to
was
be
class.
better.
But...
And he didn't have he was better on the show as well. I think going daily hasn't improved the show.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Back in like 2016, I think they were a lot better on the whole. They weren't
I mean,
going the
we
full
can't really
Zeke
comment on
Heil,
that
Zeke Heil all the time.
because his
The-
life
the-
has kind of gone to shit. So, like, you know, I still listen and I still am a member of TRS
Mhm.
Premium. I'm still PayPig, but, you know.
Yeah, I'm still paying as well. But they've gone through bad patches and then they've come up again. In terms of
Yeah.
quality of the show, like it was amazing at first. Then it went for about 6 months of me like not finding it that good, and then it went great again. Now it seems to be a bit of a lull again. So
They
I'm
do
hoping they'll
actually
get
listen
good.
to their audience, which is something people find difficult to believe. But I know for a fact they do, so they'll get better, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think that one of the things that's causing this lull in the movement on the whole is that we don't have any elections or anything to fight. I mean, we could motivate, like, that's the thing that I have an issue with the Americans, is that you can't motivate them to care about anything outside of America. Like, we had a bunch of quite important elections in Europe, and I've been trying my best to pull everyone together to just help each other on these elections, but it's been proving fucking difficult, and the Americans absolutely don't care, and it's even hard to get the Europeans to care.
I wonder
I'm
if the Americans will care about the primaries because Bannon's championing all of that. So if
true.
Spencer and that lot are kind of like counter signaling Bannon, then I wonder if they won't even get excited about it.
They should throw their weight behind them. They really should.
Yep.
I think the problem is more in the, well, I mean, it's a big topic we've covered extensively in the past, but, you know, the Americans have basically been ethnically cleansed, as Barbie puts it.
Yes, I do.
And I think we are seeing the consequences today where they're completely deracinated, which results in a series of social pathologies and, I don't know, you know, white nationalism in the US seems to attract the most fringe pathological types, you know, people who are constantly blackpilling, turning on each other, nihilistic,
Throwing
self-destructive
guns.
behavior. I mean, I think it's not a matter of if there's an election at all. It's just that they're not ready to build positive energy to create something. They just
Oh,
want to.
let's be honest though. During the 2016 Trump election, there was a lot more energy, a lot more positive energy.
Yeah, of course, but the point is, as soon as it got, you know, as Trump won, instead of, you know, being patient and working with him to encourage the American people to be in a more right-wing position, instantly they turned on him because he wasn't Hitler. I mean,
Yes. And I miss a lot of the more positive energy. Like, you know, Walt Bismarck, that guy who did all the fashy Disney songs.
I know, he's making a podcast now.
Yeah, but
Really?
where's he gone, man? Where's his songs?
He's making this podcast. Why can't we look, Walt, we'll make 2 episodes a week if you go back to making
Disney songs. Yes.
Disney songs, yes. If you're listening,
We
Walt.
need more positive songs and music and stuff like that. I mean, Mr. Bond, I know you're listening. Your stuff's great, but it's not exactly what I'd call positive. That's like it's not optimistic.
But I mean, another way to build positive things is what we have advocated for in the past, which was invented by our good friend Phineas, is the friend political theory, you know? Because as soon as you start doing shit in the real world and you stop staring at a Zuck box 8 hours a day, you can actually find the energy to do things, and it creates a positive momentum to accomplish more. But the problem is an internet-based movement which is already fringe, which works on the internet, which attracts fringe personalities even more. It's not going to end well at some point.
Mr. Bond replies, "I am fueled by hate." Accurate.
Well, so am I.
Powerful.
No, but
the friend political theory has never been proven, to be fair.
Just, you know, you
It's
can
never
call
been
me
successful. For example, Erkebrand, Faust, as we all know, Hellsbala never achieved anything without the 5th political theory saying why it worked.
shut up.
So therefore, Erkebrand never achieved anything without me saying why it worked.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, duh.
No, so the thing is, you can call me a faggot about this, but I think really we should get a lot more positive enforcement in like alt-right fairy tales and like music, things that are positive, that exude positive energy, that you can bring your wife and your kids to, and you can bring a date to, you know, not this like, oh, I want to kill everybody, we gotta go to war thing, kind of things. Like,
all right, lads, what about if we go full on entryism and try and take over existing political parties.
I already am.
That's a different environment then. Yeah,
It's a good plan, but it requires social skills. So maybe, you know, capitalizing on
for
that
someone
outside
else.
may not be the
Join
best
the local
strategy.
folklore society. Everyone do that. I said that before on the original Friend Political Theory episode. I told everyone to join the folklore society.
Well,
Everyone did that.
listen,
I
Mr.
joined the Ham
Irishman,
Radio Club.
I tried
Okay,
the
that'll do.
Folklore Society and I tried the local neo-pagan revival things, and they're overtaken by leftists to an overwhelming degree.
Well, we've
And
kind of
it is.
succeeded.
Here too, yeah.
We've kind of
I got
succeeded
banned
in-
from the Folklore Society for talking about the JQ.
Yeah, that is the effect that happens because
That's kind of the funny thing.
I said the Holocaust was a folklore.
Oh,
We
gee.
kind of succeeded. We kind of
They banned-
succeeded in actually co-opting the pagan movement in the Netherlands simply by just being more active than the other ones.
Yeah, no, I've tried acting alone and it hasn't been very effective. So
You have to learn to be a collectivist.
but I haven't. So far, I've met one man who's been even remotely receptive to anything other than complete fucking liberalism in terms of Finnish paganism. So
Now,
There were-
Barbute, I thought pagans were based.
no,
I thought they were the only
yeah.
way we could save Mother Europa, you know?
When have I ever said that, you Mr. Strawman?
Okay, well, whatever. That's what I'm told, like, 3 times a week.
If paganism isn't working out, maybe try going to church.
Well, if you go to church, then
Make
it's
sure
like,
it's the
oh,
right
here's the
church,
rainbow flag guy. So, I mean,
My church isn't like that at all, though. But whatever.
well,
There were 5 Finns from Suomen Sisu at the Erkebrand conference. So if you're under like 28, I suggest just get it in Suomen Sisu.
yeah, I'm aware of them.
So there's a group there that you can work with, and they tell me that basically in Finland you can get away with a lot more shit than you can in continental Europe.
That's perhaps a slightly rosy tinted approach, but anyway. I mean,
What if you practice entryism in Islam and try and co-opt the mosques and then have your own personal army of jihadis at your disposal?
Then it turns into mass Atomwaffen. So
Oh God!
I'm surprised no one in the alt-right is...
Talking about extreme right fascination with Islam, right? Atomwaffen is a prime example.
Oh, God. I actually had a fucking kid I know convert to fucking Mohammedanism over this shit. Don't even joke.
Oh, I think I know the lad you're talking about.
No, you probably
Is
do.
it fucking...
Yeah.
Should I say his name?
I don't. Save him. Save him the embarrassment. In case when he
is
gets
that
older,
right?
he might realize he's stupid and start laughing.
He might
What did he
fucking neck
convert? What caused him to convert? What happened?
Being a member, he hung around with the fucking Atomwaffen guys online, and
I've heard of many such cases. Many such cases.
yeah, young lad.
Did they all convert to Islam then, the Atomwaffen people?
no.
No, not all of them, but there's a few cases, and there's a famous case where one of them converted and killed 2 of the other ones.
I heard about that one, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not uncommon. Basically, there's this weird fascination with Islam on Iron March.
They went like full Wahhabi as well. They didn't like convert to like any of the more softer brands.
I mean, usually when Westerners convert, they go to Sufism, which doesn't require praying 5 times a day. But I think, and this is just my personal theory, but the way these Atomwaffen and Iron March type of guys go, they get like terminally blackpilled by the likes of Common Filth.
Yeah.
And then they go on from there to thinking that, the only option to saving the West or saving my race or whatever their motivation is, that the only option for saving this is marrying a 9-year-old.
Well, in defense of Common Filth, he is right about the GQ.
Yeah, but, I mean, so are we.
The gay question.
You don't need to be common filth to to have that kind of position on the game.
Yeah, we can put gays in wicker baskets and throw them in swamps as a prank, of course, without that sort of thing. But the trouble with common filth is that he looks at the founder of Grindr and calls him a white guy when his name is some Weinstein Goldblatt-Steinowitz. And that's the trouble with common filth. He's like, the Jews didn't do nothing.
There's also a degree of non-white supremacism in his commentary.
There's certain groups that are connected to the alt-right that just give me a bad feeling. Like Iron Marchers like that, and Common Filth's like that. And I don't know what it is.
Like common filth, though.
So we always hear about these alt-right guys who convert to Islam, but I'm surprised there haven't been any alt-right guys who just fucking bought a plane ticket out to the Congo or somewhere and just ran off into the jungle to just go on some fucking.
If they did, how would you know?
Tribe.
Andrew Anglin did that before he started. It's anarcho-primitivism.
Matt Forney did too.
I'm surprised that we haven't heard about people just fucking a bunch of niggers going around with swastikas and fucking sharpened pieces of fucking wood, just trying to take over.
I'm sure there's some kind of Ted Kaczynski is a leftist in very strange sort of leftism. Look, I'm sure that if you go looking through Africa, you're sure to find some kind of band of child warriors that worship Hitler. There's everything on that bloody continent.
Ideology?
I recommend you listen to Kulturkampf. On that one. Basically, he's a Marxist.
Not big-brained enough.
Ted Kaczynski was basically a Marxist who thought Marxism were a bunch of pussies, hypocrites who weren't willing to dismember the state and destroy technology. So he has a lot of Marxist beliefs, and he has this very Marxist idea about the value of labor in society and how that deracinates us away from who we are. But at the same time, he thought the mainstream left was a bunch of pussies who didn't actually hold the beliefs that they do. He's very critical of the left in many ways, the same way we are.
So what you're saying is he's Nazbol?
No, because that would imply a state. He's also a complete anarchist.
It's more like violent, some sort of violent anarcho-primitivism, from what I've gathered.
Yes, but also from a very Marxian perspective. I recommend you guys listen to Kulturkampf on this one. They have an episode.
Kulturkampf is usually quite good, yeah. I don't listen to it very often because they got kicked off SoundCloud, and wherever they're on now has a crappy RSS feed.
Yeah, they're on TRS now, so you can find them there.
Oh, I know, but I prefer the RSS.
Breakers.
Yeah. Them and Myth of the 20th Century are two of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, I don't know. Myth of the 20th Century is a good entertainment thing. I think they're absolutely class whenever they talk about something that I don't know anything about. But whenever I do know something about what they're talking about, I think, oh my god, what are these guys talking about? They're idiots.
There's a named effect. That's a known effect.
Myth of the 20th Century has got the best intro in the alt-right, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I like them better because they're not just a bunch of authors drinking around a table discussing the news.
Hey, someone has to be not us,
Who here other than me is drunk? Probably no one.
Me. I've had 2 bottles of wine.
I'm currently sleeping in I'm laying down in my car in Tesco's extra car park. I'm camping out to save money on a hotel room. I can't be drunk, otherwise if the police come in, even if I'm just asleep in my car, I'll get in trouble for drink driving.
The UK is not a police state, guys.
Totally.
Lovely stuff. Hang on, when was this traditional Britain conference that you were kicked out of, Martin?
Saturday.
21st of October.
Oh.
Yeah.
21st, yeah.
I actually arranged one of the speakers from Alliansen.
Oh.
I got on really well with Bjorn. He was really on board. He was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, man, Alliansen is completely on board. Like, they were disavowed by fucking everybody, every single political party, the Jewish organizations in Norway prior to the elections, because they had several candidates who were like, we need to restore Norway's immigration laws and social code from 1910, which said no Jews, no Muslims, no gays, no voting for women, all that stuff.
He added me on Facebook and said, "Yeah, man, anytime you come down to Norway, give me a shout." Yeah, he's lovely. I think they're going to do a Christmas party. What we should definitely get all of the Europa Weekly listeners to go to the Traditional Britain group Christmas party, and we could all meet up there or something.
Just to show for the UK guys, I know Sted Stedman from the London Forum quite well. He was at the Erkenbrand conference as well. I'm in contact with several people from the Traditional Britain group. These are all guys you can I can absolutely recommend. There's also a Southwest Forum and a Northeast Forum. These are places you can meet in real life as conferences in the UK if you're interested.
Where do I get all the information for these? Because I've heard of the London Forum, but I thought it was kind of an invite.
Just join the Discord that I have for the European things. I know everything.
Where can I get a link to the Discord?
Hold on.
Sorry,
I'll put it in the description of this episode.
Yeah. Put it in the description.
In there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I post all the events and stuff there.
Okay, cool. Cheers.
Great. Okay, are we getting tired? Do we have anything to talk about?
No.
No. Okay.
Well, okay. Well, we don't have to do 3 hours. It's not like.
Let's not. This was a meet the fans thing to make up for missing.
You guys doing a great job. You're one of my favorite podcasts. You're like the spiritual successor to Fash Britannia, even though you don't actually have a British person on it.
I think it's probably a good thing that we don't have a British person on it.
Actually, I would like to ask something to all the listeners. Is would you guys be interested in like us setting up a website with all of the different groups across Europe where you can like put all the podcasts and put all the blogs and content so you can all find it very easily?
We were going to do something exactly like that ourselves, actually, but.
Yeah, that's been in the works for many months.
If you could handle it, that would be better, frankly.
I have plenty of connections for that, yeah. But that seems like a good idea to me. To just like maybe put like a poll in the description or something.
Like, to be blunt, a European TRS, you know.
Yeah, basically. But in multiple languages with multiple groups affiliated and so on.
Oh yeah.
I can probably
just be as pretentious as possible. We'll have the default language French.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Let's have Russian. The future is inevitable, so let's anticipate that one and be Russian. We can have funding as well, because I mean, the reason we have to set up a Patreon is because Putin is not paying us. I mean, this is a ripoff, complete ripoff. I was told, it would be easy.
Well, what he told me that there were too many Finns complaining about Russia on the podcast. That's why I stopped paying.
Yeah, I know, man. My personal paychecks from the Kremlin, the checks began to bounce. I know.
Louise Bench was onto us anyway, so it's good we stopped.
Yeah.
Prison.
Okay, so I think that was a nice meet the fans. We met a few people. Nice religious discussion, which taught me a lot about a variety of topics.
Yeah, it's a complete fucking shit show.
Yes, I mean, I'm not going to convert because I'm more of a spiritual person as opposed to...
Wait, hold on. You're an atheist? Get him, guys, get him.
Nah.
Kill him!
I'm more like...
There's one thing worse than a pagan, and that's an atheist.
I'm not an atheist, but...
I'm spiritual, I just don't like organized religion.
Yeah, exactly. I think, man, like, organized religion is like a generosity of spirituality, man.
It's like the opium for the masses, man.
It's just to control you. It's what the corporations want.
Religion is personal, man.
Just to make a serious point about that, yes, religion is there to control you because you fucks need it.
Yeah.
Yep, that is true.
All right, and on that note, I think we can wrap up the live stream episode with
Okay.
a closing remark. Please give
Yes,
us shekels.
Deus Vult.
Yes, Deus Vult, give us shekels. Patreon.net/Europa Weekly.
God
yeah.
save the Queen.
Sure, why not? That too. And
Shoot the Russian between the eyes.
okay, sure. Let's add more
Allons
statements.
enfants de la patrie, joueur de gloire est arrivé.
But okay, so let's go and see you guys next week for the regular episode. I don't know if we have a guest, but whatever. We'll do it with what we have. So see you. Bye.
Hail victory.
Gute Nacht.
Bye.
Bye.
Gute Nacht.
Slán.
How do I stop this? Stop broadcast.
Click.